Okay, it's the 8 o'clock hour, and that means that the guests of the night are here. Tonight we'll be speaking to two of the members from the Wawa Collective. But before we speak to them, I want to play one of their songs. This song is entitled Prying Eyes. How'd you like that one? Well, without further ado, good evening, gentlemen.
Hi, this is Giorgio from the Wawa Collective.
And this is the Elusive from the Wawa Collective.
And we're just giving a big shout out to WDGP Radio.
Yes, a big shout out to all the guys in the station, and thanks for putting us on, and we'll give you a breakdown on the Wawa.
Well, the Wawa actually kicked off in the mid-2000s, around 2003 to 2005. I had a vision with Naj, the Elusive, to create something that comprised of different genres and ideas in music. At the time, I was in the midst of the UK neo-soul scene, providing remixes for artists around at the time. There were certain vocalists that I provided my expertise on their tracks. There were remixes like India Davenport. I did a particular remix on her comeback single, Bring It On, who was formerly of the Brand New Heavies. During the time she released her debut solo album.
Cool. Can you tell us who the band members are and what their roles are within the group?
Okay, so with regards to the band, we have Giorgio, who is the main producer, and he rides the Fender Rhodes through the whole album, and he shares a lot of the production with Mathieu, Karsenti, and Mathieu leans towards the Latin grooves and vibes as well. Myself, I do a little songwriting, but I'm mostly around arranging the whole project and stuff like that. And the last member, should I say, is Sanya Lerin. She got on board quite later, but she's a part of the Wawa, and she is what we call the Wawa Mama.
That's right, yeah, the Wawa Mama. She has the image of the Wawa Mama that you will see in all the Wawa Collective branding and logos, designed by myself, was literally based on Sanya Lerin, where she is literally the human face of the Wawa Collective.
So if you see the logo of the Wawa, and you'll see, a traditional ebony woman with an afro, that's Sanya Lerin. But the idea of the Wawa Mama concept was really just to say that we're comprising lots of different sounds, from Latin, from New Soul, from hip hop to jazz, like Tell Me Why, and we're putting it all together, and that's nature, isn't it? That's putting all different ideas together in nature. And so we've kind of like put the Wawa Mama logo branding as like representing Mother Nature, really, a funky version of her,
like Mother Nature, exactly.
Well, that's actually a pretty good segue. Why don't we go ahead and listen to Tell Me Why right now?
Sweet soul music for your radio. That's for Wawa.
That was nice. You know, I read a little bit about the Wawa 45s. Are you guys connected to them?
Often, some people get the Wawa Collective muddled up with the Wawa 45s. The Wawa Collective is the band, is the actual group, and the Wawa 45s, that's a record label not associated with us, but we know them guys. Dom Savini and the rest of the guys there, we've known them on and off for years, and back in the day we did share the same distributor. But we're the Wawa Collective, the group, and the label we're on is I Innovate. So it's an indie label in London. But the Wawa, we're all about eclectic soul, and eclectic soul, that's different ideas, different understandings of music, different concepts, and putting it all together, hopefully intelligently, out there for people to see what our minds can express.
Good stuff. I think you guys have succeeded with that. Now, tell us about the project Crybaby?
Okay, so I mean, looking at the Crybaby Soul album, it's a 16-track album, and I mean, some of the key songs that I think listeners will be interested in are, I think, "Tell Me Why." That was a good track.
"Tell Me Why." That's one of our novelty tracks, simply because it has the old jazz feel to it. Straight away, as soon as you hear it, you know it has that old jazz. It's the mark, like the pinnacle of what Wild Wild Collective is about. And we've got the sultry vocals on there from Fiona Fay, and she did a really good job of adapting that old style jazz vocal into a modern day, classic track.
I think another song which is different from the jazz side is more to the commercial Latin side, and that's "Gordo," which was I think was a jam session with yourself and Mathieu.
Yeah, that's right. Gordo was a jam session where we just picked up some vibing off of each other, and we just came together and fused together this track that we called "Gordo." Which is obviously from both of our backgrounds, where mine was from the jazz hip-hop, where Matthew's was from the Latin acoustic and percussionist side. So it was a good fusion to do, which is something we really love to explore on even further.
I think you guys also explored it further with Felice and "Life in Your Mind." So that continues the Latin flavour. So I mean, check them songs out, and hopefully the station will play some of them tracks. I mean, other songs that come to my mind is obviously "Every Time." I'll talk about that's with Abdul Shalon, and Abdul Shalon back in the day was vocals on some of the early albums of Mark de Clive Lowe. Basically in a couple of sessions he put some vocals down, and Giorgio and the rest of the world turned them around into "Every Time." So that's on the album, so check that out. Another song I would say is maybe speak about your time in Japan, George, Narita.
Yeah, my days travelling, a lot around the world. Japan was one of the most amazing experiences that stand out in my mind, which helped influence the song that's on the album called Tokyo for Narita, and just the whole experience of being in a country where it's not at all your culture or language, or everything is just completely different to what you know and what you've been brought up around, and how strongly that can influence how you create your music, which for me was a blessing, really. So when I managed to work with Natasha Stark, who put amazing vocals down onto this track, for me that was a double blessing, that I was able to create this song and have Natasha also be involved in it, which is one of my best tracks that one of my personal favourite tracks that I enjoyed producing.
Okay, and there's another jazzy acid jazz song, "Prying Eyes," and we've got part 1 and 2 on the album, and we released vinyl records several years ago, and we threw some of the early mixes, early versions of "Prying Eyes," but on the actual album is the full-length version, and it never came out. So we held it down for the Crybaby Soul album. So you've got part 1 and 2. So most people have only heard part 1. So, but on the album we made sure part 1 and 2 are on the 8-minute song or 7-minute song.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, check it out. I mean, on top of that, George, we've both got vocal tracks on there. George with "Sweet as Cherry,"
yes,
and as I said, "Return of the Renegade," which is a track for the African Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation. But on top of that, I mean, some other songs that come to mind, I would say, is a kind of like drum and bass acid jazzy, "Carousel."
Yeah, "Carousel" was a sort of an acid jazz crossover drum and bass experimentation. which again is just a great track to work on. Okay, for the contemporary jazz listener, we have a song on the album called Pure Love by Mathieu Karsenti, and with the vocalists Saba Injera Soul, who just adds a very sultry style vocal to the tracks. Her background does come from traditional Eritrean vocal style, so to actually hear her voice, there's an angelic feel to it where you have that tradition feel, and then she adds in soul, and she just adds in a whole new style that can expand in such a great way.
And another song I definitely would like to mention is a song with a more commercial song, I say mainstream, is a song called Conceptual Love, and that's a project where I set up with a singer called Bada Badu. It was basically based on an old wah-wah beat.
That's correct, yeah, it was an old wah-wah track which was, after produced, it didn't really see the light of day, and it was just shelved and just needed a vocalist. So it was crying out for this vocalist, and he was just the appropriate person to go on this track.
Yeah, so it was an old track George put together called Quartet Junkie, and I took the idea and I set it up with the singer called Bada Badu. But the reason why I'm mentioning it is that in the UK, Bada Badu was a artist on season 7 of the X Factor, and he was a televised artist, and he got a lot of like a big showcase when he came on. Like 8 million viewers saw him on stage, and we quickly put a song together, an early mix together for Bada Badu at the time, and it was actually the first song released from season 7 by an independent label from any artist on the X Factor in season 7. That's in the UK, and so what we've done is that's on the album as well, and we've also more recently done a remix with vocals from Sanya Lerin. So that's Conceptual Love. So look at that. It's one of our more pop mainstream neo soul songs, but I think once again it just reflects the diversity of the wah-wah. So look out for that one. That's Conceptual Love.
That's good stuff. So why don't we take a break and listen to a couple of these songs? Why don't we go ahead and listen to the 3 that you mentioned that I happen to have, which is Gordo, Narita for Tokyo, and Conceptual Love, and then we'll come back. Yeah, those are all nice. And yeah, I do see Conceptual Love being more of a mainstream kind of hit, but the whole thing, everything I've heard is really nice. And you are very diverse. Would you like to speak a little more on that aspect?
The diversity of the wah-wah musically, you'll feel it when you go into the Crybaby Soul album. And I think hopefully you'll see a group of people with different songwriting ideas, different understandings of music, coming together and expressing it in a way that is pretty extraordinary in the sense of the diversity of it, from Latin to new soul jazz to broken beat to alternative left field, you know, so hip hop beats, and I think it's a good credit to like yourself, Georgie here, Mathieu, and myself and Sanya, and how we've managed to put something together.
Okay, well, I want to switch gears a little bit and just discuss how you feel that the independent music scene has changed since you started on this journey.
Okay, what's changed the most since we started in the industry, so over the several years, is definitely the presence of the internet and online promotions and getting your music out there. So it's very good and refreshing to have different radio stations in the other side of the world pick up Wawa songs and play it to listeners. And I say about 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, that was a much harder task, you know. So it's very refreshing for an indie group to put out music and to get feedback from Australia, from Atlanta, from LA, from London, from South Africa, from France, Germany, with lots of feedback.
That's the whole reason why we started up the Wawa project again, simply because of the resources that are around for musicians today. You know, back in the day we were quite limited with what we had, but now there's just so many avenues you can, you know, take your music to. And you know, we all took a few years off, you know, to pursue other things in life, and obviously now making some really nice music is good feeling, you know, second time to come around and produce music again and put it out in the new format of the way music is done in the world today. So it's actually it was quite a benefit to actually take time off and just to recoup ourselves and come out, start afresh again.
Okay, good stuff. Yes, I agree. The internet has made the world so much smaller. But I can't let you guys go without talking about your musical influences.
Okay, so, I mean, we'll just talk briefly about the more deeper, fundamental music influences of our careers and our paths. I mean, for me, I've always been based on jazz and funk, so I mean the kind of artists I'm looking at and admiring from when I was coming up are Kool and the Gang from the 70s, Earth, Wind and Fire through the 70s, obviously James Brown, Maceo Parker, the JBs, Roy Ayers and the whole Parliament Funkadelic, from Chocolate City all the way up to Trumbipulation, you know, Funkadelic, just all of it. And also for people that lean towards the jazz fusion, Larry and Fonz Mazel, them two producers, and the work they did with Johnny Hammond, Donald Byrd, Ramsey Lewis, and so I really liked the fusion of Larry and Fonz Mazel. And but yeah, there's like hundreds of artists that I've admired, in particular through the 70s.
Okay, yeah, my influences are pretty much quite a wide range as well. Mine ranges from classical music to jazz, soul, experimental, electronica, even movie scores. So, you know, going back to even the old psychedelic rock, Jimi Hendrix, going back to the old jazz music like Bud Powell, Thelonious Monk, even some of the artists that the Elusive just mentioned as well. You know, it's quite a vast range of musical influences that I couldn't pinpoint exactly what my particular best influences are, because they're just too vast to even name.
Okay, yeah, so generally I think we've tried to give you an insight on the Wawa Collective and what we're about, and we hope that this gives you a better understanding of where we're coming from. But the album Crybaby Soul it should be out at the time when you're hearing this, so I mean, definitely check it out if you're looking for real music with different ideas shared in the music platform from the different minds of the songwriters and the production. So, I mean, the wah-wah represents eclectic soul, and that means we're going to do different genres. We may do another jazz, we may do Latin, we may do hip-hop. It's diverse, and that's the way we like it. If you look at most iTunes playlists, I'm sure for the listeners out there, you've got diverse stuff on there. You know, you've got different artists and different music genres. And so we're doing that in the album format. And I do think nowadays a lot of artists tend to be, if I'm hip-hop, every single song's hip-hop. If I'm R&B, every single song's R&B. If I'm jazz, every single song's jazz. But we like different music, and so we want to express that. And so that's what the wah-wah is. And the wah-wah, that's why one of the other reasons for the wah-wah, with the wah-wah pedal, different frequencies, different sounds, different ideas. As a collective, yeah. Okay. So thanks a lot, guys, for hearing ourselves. That's myself, Elusive, and Giorgio.
And yeah, we really appreciate your time and support in everything that we're doing musically, and look forward to the future projects.
That's good stuff. Thanks for sharing, guys, and thanks for being here. And on that note, we're going to listen to one more track from the Wah-Wah Collective called Cryoto.